We'll call the meeting to order at 6:05. Motion to approve the minutes for November 4th, 2024 that Ruth sent out.
I'll make a motion.
Kevin?
Second.
Irene, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay. Old business. So a couple of things to talk about. First of all, let's talk about there was a discussion around Heritage Park and possibly using Heritage Park as a site. We did ask David to just look at it to see if it was even feasible. There are obviously concerns, and you could talk about some of those right around sight lines and space in the triangle a little bit from that side. But I think, Kevin, you've also brought up safety concerns, right, with it being a park and the fire department walking, people walking in and out and being around as fire trucks and emergency vehicles are moving. It also looks like, from what you drew up, we'd lose a substantial amount of parking on the site based on the size of the site. 2 entrances in and out, or adding an entrance in and out of the site would take away from parking for the residents at the park. So I just think, in my mind, and obviously open for discussion, but there's a lot of downsides to this site that we should just kind of put this to bed and move forward on the initial site. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Sure.
David,
Yeah, just from our observation, I mean, our siting plan to do an overlay of, the site plan that we used as a basis looks like there's room to build, but based on the just triangular geometry of the site, those are always challenging projects as you're looking at site circulation of the large vehicles, first responders entering into the site as vehicles are potentially exiting. Also navigating around and having sort of that perimeter walking piece that overlays or intersects across the main apparatus is always somewhat problematic. In urban environments, it's much more intuitive. You're on a main street and you're in a business district, and whether it's New York City or any of our cities, right, you have fire trucks exiting out all the time, and that's navigated. This is a little different, and that's why times you need to look at signalization to be able to manage traffic in a better way, day or night, and being on with an intersection of State Road, that gets to be complicated. Parking, as you saw, because we do that all on the perimeter, is not the best scenario for that. Other solutions could be explored, but I see some challenges there. And then just what the possibility of utilities and off-site improvements would be. I think that adds some complications to a project. You could build anywhere, but I see this as having sort of an added cost and further due diligence that would really be needed to consider this to be a viable, the best use of a site compared to what we already have.
A couple of concerns that I may have too is that the road, like Great Hillwood, and the way it intersects with, as Dave said, 149, my assumption is with the trucks that road is going to have to be reconfigured or rebuilt in some way to get the trucks in and out of there, because that's a tough turn. Like if they have to go right, that's we got to make that road entrance a whole lot bigger, which obviously talks you're talking about drainage and DOT and all that stuff because it's a state road, so that can be a challenge. And then the other thing that I was thinking of in regards to this when I started looking at the site area is that you're talking about putting a major facility in the middle of a small residential area. It's only around the corner, and it's not like sirens aren't going to be heard in that residential area anyway, but sticking it right in the middle of 3-sided residential, I'm not sure the people in that area are going to be necessarily pleased with the idea of putting a firehouse where it's going to be.
And that's a good point. I mean, our plan wasn't detailed in a way to show layering of buffering. But that would definitely need to be something that would have to be considered, because the mass of the building, you're right, is that mass sort of
and the lights
balance.
And everything that's going to be
exactly.
on.
So how do you buffer it? There's not a lot of room for buffering
No.
to make that happen.
We have to put in some big trees.
Yeah. And,
So I don't know, I'm just thinking, you know, the people who live in that area, even though it's half a mile from the other site, they're all residential and the other site is all commercial, right?
Yeah.
So it makes I think it would make a big difference.
Yeah, sorry. You raised the point about the end of Gray Hillwood, and I raised that too. Even going to Gray Hillwood and taking left to go 149 south, if you're alone in the truck, the post you can't see unless you square that intersection off. No matter what, with a truck now, you have to square the truck off to be able to see to the right before you pull out, just to go south on 149.
Yeah, so you
Going
probably
north
have to
on
lose
149 is even worse
a whole
because you
lot
gotta
of
swing
this.
it.
yeah,
You may
where
end
the
up-
flagpole is, you'd almost be squaring off to that point, that where
Yeah.
that monument flagpole is.
You need a good radius, almost like a 50, 50-degree radius that has to get thrown in to be able to round off that intersection. So sightline study, just even from looking at the center overlay, is a bit challenging.
Yeah. And, you talked about utilities and septic. Forget the challenge of finding places to put it. It's a pretty substantial added cost where we already have that in place, on the current site.
Right.
So, so unless somebody disagrees, and it was also the request of the fire commissioners and the fire chief to put this, this is not
Put this
an
out
ideal
there.
spot and to not use this site, so.
Oh, they're not?
mhm.
Yeah, okay. Huh.
And I'm fine to take it off based on our review of it.
Okay. Anybody disagree with that?
Nope.
Good. Okay, check. All right, so with that said, let's go back to the current site. So a couple things that were open on the current site that we need to talk about tonight. One was budget. Right, so I know you pulled together for us well, first of all, did you guys make any changes to this based on what
Oh, no.
we
no.
did talk about and the
Same.
little minor changes?
No, we just have it there, just in
Okay.
case you need to refer back to
Just,
anything.
just for discussion.
No, that's good. So we talked about last time a budget, right? We need to understand based on the scope of the project change going now from a renovation, which is what you guys initially prepared and provided us a budget for, to go into a full project that with the management fee and everything, what that looks like. So I know you have prepared to talk about that tonight a little
Yeah.
bit, just so we can all talk. Oh, shoot, I was supposed to call him. He couldn't come, but he wanted to dial in, so we just call him. Adam on the phone.
Philip?
Hey, sorry, I forgot to call you.
I was wondering, I was checking to see if the meeting was at 6 or 7.
No. So the only thing we talked about was taking the Heritage Park property off the table. So,
Okay.
and we've agreed to that as a group. So we just got started talking about the current site.
Okay.
So one thing we were talking about, David's gonna work on the budget, or talk us through the budget tonight here and where we stand on budget, so we can understand that. We have a couple bills to approve after that, and then just to talk a little bit about timeline and next steps, right? We need to, with the new budget, and budget season, we'll need to get in front of the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen. But we also want to get this thing to be as close to shovel ready as quickly as we can for bonding. And I know, right, town is currently getting ready to go out for bonding too and put that package together.
Right.
So understanding that and,
Yeah, the best numbers we can give
Yeah.
to all these folks, the best thing we can move forward on all of it.
so,
Okay.
Yeah, so we have two projects right now that are in different stage of development. One is about 75% finished with design, and it's similar in scale. It actually has an outbuilding, but it's roughly 11,000 square feet or so. That project is being estimated by the construction manager at essentially $800, not $799.
So-
$800 a square foot is what we're seeing for the hard construction cost.
okay,
We have another project that we just we went out to bid, it's in Bristol. It's hard construction numbers. It's a little smaller than yours, it's a career department, but it's still showing that same, roughly $800 a square foot. And we will be getting an estimate from, which happens to be Downs, they're acting as the owner's rep for a project in Waterford, which is actually pretty close to your square footage. Yours is a little bigger, but it still is manageable. It's actually the demolition of their existing firehouse and a brand new one. So I'm expecting to see that number, I think,
21st.
the 21st.
Okay.
So with those three projects, seeing that where they're gonna land and putting an escalator factor on that,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in pretty good shape to be able to give sort of a prediction of what that will be. The only difference with your project is the well component, where those other three all have, public water sources for that. So for that, that's the only thing I think we gotta look at related to water service.
But based on your current design, are we saying we need to move the well?
Well, I'm not sure. That's what we need to make sure. And then it's related to the sprinkler piece, because we need
Yeah.
to sprinkler the building. So the
Yeah.
added cost of, I guess, the two of those.
Fire tanks or something?
Fire tank
Mm-hmm.
surcharge, do we need to move it where we're placing?
That's the best well in town, let's try to save it.
It is
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
I
I mean,
mean,
with all
we're
the
gonna-
work that we just done, it's cranking.
So we have a fee through our civil engineer, Banesh, and the same Chris Till, who was the same well engineer that worked on this building. You may remember,
Yep.
call Chris. So we have a fee for him to, be part of that design. So based on that cost per square foot, our percentage, our fee is sort of a byproduct of the, overall construction cost. I was hesitant to give you a number. I wanted to make sure we were in that range so you guys are comfortable with that. And then we would just essentially lock into ours as a fixed fee. There wouldn't be any type of variable, any variable change on percentage of construction costs. We would lock that in or present that to lock that in, obviously, for your consideration. So at the next meeting, we'd be prepared to present what we think the range of construction costs will be, what our fee would be, and then, move that forward for your review and other approvals that you need to do with the Board of Selectmen and I'm sure Board of Finance, depending on,
Yeah.
adjustments of what we originally had based on our, fee of a renovation project that we presented today.
So I think one of the couple questions I have. The first project you talked about, 75% SD, CD, where are you?
CDs.
Of CD, okay.
Yeah, that's all the way up in Norfolk in the top, top west, western part of the state. Newfield Construction is the construction
Okay.
manager, if you've heard of them, they're out of
Newfield.
Hartford.
Has done work there.
Oh, right, yeah, so Newfield, from, right,
Yes.
they were involved in this project at one time, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, they just completed their estimate for them, and that's based on 75% construction
Okay.
documents, because they're now trying to figure out how to do their funding piece of it, the building committee is.
Okay. Second question. So if we come back to, when we look at the numbers, if you come back, what do you think you need for time? A week, 2 weeks? Like, we want to, at this point, we need to push.
What do we need to just, will we just,
You need to pull together a budget for us.
yeah, we could, so we're gonna get those numbers on the 21st.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to meet that following week, we would come with an estimate and
Okay.
if that's possible.
That works.
So that, maybe
Yeah.
that Monday night, that following week, which I think is like the 27th.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
because Martin Luther King is the 20th, right?
Yeah.
The week after, which is good.
'Cause the 29th, I think we have the tri-board, and before that, the long-range planning, right? That's all that night.
Does the 28th work?
No, 27th is good. There's a Stop the Bleed class, I think probably here, so we'd have to go
Oh.
somewhere else. but-
And that probably starts at what, 6 or 7? 7?
Yeah.
So we could be done by 7.
Yeah,
Start at 6, be done by 7. Even if we had to start at 5:30, just to make sure we're done, if we're gonna review numbers. Does
Okay.
that work for you guys, 5:30 if we had to? All right, so we'll plan on 27th at 5:30 for that next meeting, which is good. So you'll be able to come back with that for the
Yes.
27th. You'll
Yeah.
have 3 good estimates for us, rough numbers. Be able to put that together. 2 of those are with CMs. 1 is not. The third one's, it's in the 75%, they're not using a CM.
No, they are using, the 75% Newfield is a
Oh,
CM.
Newfield, that's Newfield.
Yeah, the
Okay.
one that we are getting in, that we're getting the 21st is with an owner, the owner's rep
Owner's
is
rep.
doing the, and they're gonna go out to a GC bid,
Okay,
yes.
okay. But we'll have
And
Newfield, we'll
we're
have
a
the
GC
Downs.
bid, and we're a GC bid on Bristol, the one that's out for construction right now.
Okay. So you'll have 4 projects to bang up against
Yeah,
that are pretty similar in nature to get
Yes.
a good estimate.
yep. Yeah.
Okay,
You know, the differences obviously are always site. The buildings are, you know, the architecture and stuff is different, but it's, at the end of the day, it's, you
Still
know,
building
it's
a building.
still a building that, you know.
are they all true brick and mortar, or are any of them looking at doing a combination like we are?
They're all steel framed, have various facades to them.
One's full
clapboard,
masonry, one's for,
One's masonry, all the other 3 are all steel framed and cladded just like yours.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep, standing seam roof. So we have some decent numbers on that. You know, they're considering value engineering, going from metal roofs to shingles. They're trying to save some money on their budget. But we could go through that.
Yeah, it would be good to see the numbers without the VE stuff,
Sure. Yep.
just to understand that full number and
Yeah.
then what they VE'd out to get to the number that they're going out with.
And I'll ask Newfield if I could share that estimate. I don't see why we can't, it's a public record document that's there, but I could ask them if we could share that detailed version, and same with Downs.
Yeah, Scott actually called me from Downs. And said, hey, we'd love to come do work, so, you know, depending on what route, and I told him we didn't know what route we'd go, right? Whether we
Yeah,
could CM it or GC it, but, okay,
yeah, but we could work through each of those just to show how the fee structure, you know, the difference between the two.
so Newt needs to, he did, because of we were looking at the heritage property, he did not kick off the site survey stuff, so we talked about it today, he'll
Okay.
kick that off tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
We just, go ahead.
sorry, I just, I don't want to throw a monkey wrench and add more cost to it, but I think we're going this deep into this building and the property, you might as well include septic in this also.
In the survey? Or to do a new septic?
Construction cost too, yeah.
To design a new septic, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
I guess my concern is at the age of it, I don't want to put a new building up, then have to tear it up in 2 years and we know.
Well, I think, Newt, didn't we talk about probably doing that anyways, just because
Yeah.
we're gonna.
Because we had
Yeah.
to move it, right?
Yeah, and our
overnight
flow,
staffing there, so.
we have a meeting room, so our flow,
Yeah.
you know, gallons per day requirement.
Okay, perfect.
But I will talk
I
with,
thought price down when we're getting ready to pay for something, so.
Yeah.
okay, so I'm gonna have him amend his proposal, because he does have, we assume the existing septic will be sufficient for reuse. Any design or permitting associated with new or expanded, will be performed as needed. So I'll have him put a fee of what that would be if we decide to just design new, if the existing is
Usable.
Usable.
Or not sufficient.
yeah, okay.
Because what's there for a tank now, Newt? 1,500 gallon tank?
Yeah, it was all 1,500. I mean, I don't think that, it's probably not the tank, but the fields are from, 1987 or so, 86.
Yeah.
40 years old.
I guess my point is I don't want to have to go back in 2 years after we're done, have to put a new septic in it.
And
Tear
where's,
up what's there.
yeah, is the septic, the fields under the parking lot of the new building, Newt, or would they be in the field behind the lot?
The intent was they would go in the field behind.
It's in the field behind, but I don't know, well, if you put the parking lot out, they have to be redone anyway.
We were right on the edge of
Yeah.
what was, we were right there on the edge of that.
So I think, yeah,
I just want to throw that out there.
yeah, no. I think we should budget for the potential that it gets changed out, and if we're lucky and don't need to do that work, because it's sustainable, then, but I think the last thing we want to do is go back asking for more money
No.
and,
Or dig up the parking
or
lot. if
dig
we have
up
to
a
redo
brand new
pipe and
parking
down.
lot,
That
exactly.
drives me nuts when I see that,
Mhm.
so.
Yep. So, all right, so we'll kick the site survey off. The other thing, you were gonna try and find me an RFP for environmental stuff.
Yes, okay.
If you could get that off, then we'll kick off something with Fussin O'Neill.
Yeah.
Or go out for bid and get it out to Fussin O'Neill and whoever else wants to bid on it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Because those, I think, are the two big things to really be able to go from this conceptual to next steps. As you're working on the numbers, we can get those two things working in parallel.
Okay.
Anything else we're missing?
No, like I said, the well design. We will include our geotech borings. We'll include that within our piece because we will need to get that done to just determine foundation design and soil conditions.
Yeah.
Um,
You carry a demo number?
We'll carry a demo number. We don't have anything for a traffic impact study, which I don't think P&Z is going to require.
No.
Are we doing site lighting? Are we going to be doing pole lighting or anything? In the
I think we
lot?
should around the parking lots and stuff,
Okay.
quite honestly. I mean, if you're building a new building like this, it does make a huge difference from a safety point of view.
Okay, I just didn't.
Especially off hours, people coming in and out.
Yeah, okay.
It's one thing when all
Especially
your-
with the multiple sides we're
Exactly.
gonna have versus the rectangle building.
Yeah, and I guess with somewhat residential, we'll have to just deal with that being on time clocks, some type of dimming control or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And maybe it's one of those things that we could also work to kick off, like with call activations type of deal. So when your first responders are showing up,
okay.
right, there's a timer on the parking lot, that kicks off your lighting outside so it's not dark, showing up at night.
Just for
Those
the
are-
extra parking or for the entire facility?
For all of it, right? We kick off when the tones dump, it brings the lights up in the building, turns your parking lot lights outside on for a period of time.
What is and I don't know, but for a public safety building, is it required lighting all night long, with or without calls?
I don't believe so, no.
No, I think it's just a preference. It really is just a preference. Zoning usually takes precedent over that. So,
At least at the front lid or something like that?
Yeah,
Something
and you
like
could also do motion over the doors, right? So if people walk up to the doors.
it's
you
usually
know-
what we end up doing. Preemption gets to be fairly complicated with the
Yeah.
with true, lights going on down the hallway and,
Technologies, down the hallway and
yeah,
stuff, yes.
things like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in terms of just motion on,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
motion that turns on site lighting when the first truck, comes in and.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things today with technology you can do. And it's also a good security deterrent, right? If
Mhm.
people are getting kicked on when motion lights are coming on as they're walking around the building for whatever reason. So,
Yep.
it helps with your camera views too, quite honestly.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
Huge.
okay.
Now, one other question, for the sprinkler system, you said there's a fire tank, what,
There would need to be because you're on a well, so there's gonna need to be a holding tank.
Like an
Okay, is there a way to tie that into a cistern system, to have extra water for fire calls too? Or would that be separate? I know
It
we
need to be
discussed that.
separate, it's gotta be a dedicated
Okay,
pump,
that's,
separate
Yeah.
so we
tank.
want to make sure we have the cistern system in that estimate too. I know we've talked about that, just to have a good supply of water for fire incidents.
Okay. Now, where'd that water draw from?
Do we take it from the roof down the, I mean, we have cisterns in town that we can fill, but is there a way to utilize the
Runoff from the
runoff
roof?
from the roof and utilize that water?
Yeah, we've done that before, so in East Hartford, one of the lead projects we did, took all the rainwater from the roof and put it into a holding tank. It needed a vortex system to continue to clean that, because drafting, and then that tank, for it to be serviced, needed to be large enough to have a contained, self-contained inspections,
It's confined space.
confined space, so it got to be very complicated that at the end of the day, I don't think East Hartford uses it as much as they intended to. Because all that water that has whatever's in it needs to be somewhat treated, it became, and it's coming off the roof, whatever debris gets filtered through there. So we've done that in the past, and it makes sense. Like, I have all this stormwater, I might as well try to capture and reuse that. But there's some complicated engineering that goes into that. So that can be done, but it's an expensive
What ab-
system.
What about just a cistern system where we just have a tank? that we
That's really the
fill?
best
Is that the
scenario.
easier, less
That's
maintenance
really
way?
the easiest
Okay.
way. You draft it
Right.
from other,
Yeah,
It did sound though, didn't it?
yeah.
yeah. Maybe, but, yeah, so maybe we look at that approach then, instead of using rainwater, we just fill it. But
Yeah, just
At
fill
least
it
we have
yourself,
water, yeah.
put up,
Have a tanker task force,
Yeah.
drill and fill it every day.
mhm. Like in Durham, it's under the bays.
In Durham, it's under the base, yeah.
It's,
That's like, if you can, especially if you could do a pump to fill the trucks off of it versus
Yeah.
drafting, that's even better.
Yeah. I know others have done stormwater retention, we used to do it, and before it was, sort of frowned upon, we would design a stormwater retention
yep.
pond
Pond out
behind the
back.
firehouse, and they would use that to draft,
Yep.
off of, but,
That's seasonal too, though.
and that's
cyclical.
seasonal. But,
Yeah,
That's where you had company one.
That's
Oh.
exactly what we have at
Company
Company
one.
One.
yeah.
Well, that
It's
used to
been
be-
bone dry as I thought in that place.
Exactly.
Suck the water out of the pond.
Yeah.
And we have such a dry.
Fish, everything.
yeah.
So maybe we just do the system without the rainwater then, please.
Okay.
Yeah, just the giant holding.
We
tank.
also have holding tanks for oil water separator tanks,
Yep. It'll
so-
have to go
That's for the
in.
drainage system in the floors, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
for
so that-
washing vehicles, all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking the other day, and I don't remember if I was talking with Newt or I was talking with Brian or who, but like creating an area that's dedicated for washing trucks, like taking the bays on the end, kind of. And that's where you may have to cycle trucks through, but it's not like you wash trucks in every single bay. So you have a power washer mounted on the wall, you have some type of maybe an air drop, right? Those things that you need all in one spot, and then you coat the walls better on that end for water retention, and maybe it's a different garage door on the end. So those types of things to think about from a vehicle washing point of view within the design.
It's almost like having a maintenance bay, but for washing.
Correct. Yeah,
The other thing is that there's car washes, right, that you can go to, and they're green, and and they recycle their water. So it's not something that you're constantly, emptying your well, but they're actually recycling the water they use for wash down. And if that's something that can be done or incorporated, I don't know what that means, and I'm not a builder and I'm not a designer, but, if that, they can do it for car washes, and, we're talking big pieces of apparatus. It's
Yeah.
a lot of water.
Yeah, we've done some of that with public works facilities where we did a wash bay in Darien for their town public works that did the same, you know, and we need to create a mezzanine so they could get up there and get to the top of the trucks, right? Because you can't really do that with, and it was basically just power washers. And then we've studied others that are pretty sophisticated pieces of equipment to wash things down, and I'm not sure. In most cases, you don't need anything more than, you know, just some power washing and choosing the right materials that are adjacent
Yeah,
to those.
that's
That's the key part, right? So
Yeah.
you don't have mud stuck to, you know,
You don't have
plaster.
drywall, you don't have drywall anywhere, it's all
Yeah,
just
insulation,
masonry,
absorbing
Exactly.
the water, things like that. just
epoxy
bad.
paint. And
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
you have, right? And you have fiberglass doors, not steel doors,
Mhm.
and things like that, so.
And obviously we'll have proper drainage, which is also key compared to
Yeah,
the
it's
other
proper
ones, so.
drainage.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And maybe, that may be one of those areas where you may not put in a full heated floor, but maybe the floor's heated in that area to dry it up, right? So you don't have the slipping hazard. So
Exactly, yeah.
those types of things as we're designing that area, because it's tough, right, in the winter to keep things clean. And especially when you come back, the last thing we want, we're keeping these trucks for 20 plus years. You need to wash them and get the silt and the sand and
Yeah.
crap off them, and
Yeah, it extends the longevity.
it really does. And if for whatever it costs us to do it over the course of this building, it will save that much and a hell of a lot more on the cost of trucks to extend the life if we can do it.
You know, plus maintenance of all the valves,
Mhm.
pump operations, everything else underneath too.
4 o'clock last night, I was washing my truck. As soon as that sun went down, it literally was a coat of ice. It just froze instantly. It was amazing how quickly it happened. So yes, I think those types of things, we know we don't have an unlimited amount of money, but there's putting good money to good and good money to bad, and I think those types of things are where you get an ROI on it over the course of a year, maybe not directly to the construction, but in other things.
Yeah.
It's protecting town assets at that point.
So, what is your timeline of getting shovel ready? Soon as you can, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So
mean-
with that, I think we'll outline what we think sort of range of durations will be in terms of getting through things and.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
so
we're
forth.
right now in town, talking to our bond council and talking to our bonding guys as far as how much we're gonna be bonding for X.
Okay.
And the other thing too is that there's 2 fire trucks that we're looking to bond with the Firehouse. So we have that information, we need the information on the Firehouse. And again, for this legislative session, you know, having the numbers and being as shovel-ready as possible to go into that. And that's, you know, something that they're gonna start considering, those projects.
So the sooner we can get it in, the better.
April.
Or have an idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And the process in town for approval is that you first go to town meeting and then
We'd have to do another public hearing.
you have to do a
right,
public hearing.
with the final plans, then town meeting, then referendum.
Then referendum.
But we wouldn't have to go to referendum on the project necessarily if it goes through bonding. Bonding's gonna go through referendum. We have to talk about that,
Yeah, I think.
right?
Yeah, I think the bonding would go through, so we wouldn't necessarily.
We'd have to be ready to do presentations as part of the bonding, getting through
Yes.
referendum is what
Okay,
we're gonna
so
have
you
to.
would do referendum.
Yes.
And when would that?
Does the town have to vote on the project before referendum?
Why'd it go dark?
A lot of mystery today.
Yeah. I don't know. It's about the funding. It's not about the project. It's about the funding for the project. So, once the funding was approved for here, they didn't vote on the project.
Say that again?
Town meeting, then it went to referendum. But it was a bunch of things.
Yeah,
The town did specifically vote.
for the
No,
project. They voted for the financing.
Right. When we did it for here, the 20 million, it was voting for the funding, not the project.
Yeah.
And then the committees were created for the projects.
Yeah, and I mean, they were tied together, but I guess the real vote was the funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that drives this even more is we didn't have necessarily, we had budget numbers, right, that O&G did for us and all of that for this project. So we have to get to that point for bonding and be able to say, we need $14 million or whatever that number is.
Okay, and when would a referendum go into place? Would you
Sometime
think?
this spring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's gonna happen quick.
Okay.
yeah, March, April.
So that's why I want, there's two parts to this, right? There's the funding for the project, but it's also getting your numbers, because
Is our numbers for our fee gonna be part of the referendum piece, or?
I don't think it can be, right? Because we need you guys to continue. Well,
Yeah,
part of
That's
it,
why I was asking.
part of it can be, right? We could
Well,
break you
CA,
out into
yeah, the
phases.
construction could be, you don't have to
Correct.
approve us, you don't have to tie into bidding and
No.
construction until you actually have a project.
Yeah, we need your numbers to get us through CDs, and shovel ready, right? In the initial.
CA, construction documents and
Yes.
then bidding and then.
Also, are we gonna do USDA? Also, you know,
As an
a
option.
as an option for funding. So that's something else too, right, with firehouses? Have we seen that
is.
come through yet?
It is not, I have not seen it come through yet.
So that's another possibility, but again, we need the numbers to go there for that as well, so.
And all that
I
does
mean, I'm
really
hoping we
is,
can do a lot of this without paying for it.
yeah. I mean, the USDA isn't really a grant. It's a
Just a
funding,
long-term
it's a
loan.
long-term
Oh, it is?
loan.
Oh,
It just
okay.
gives you the option to do 40 years financing versus 20 or 30
20 or 30, okay.
typically, so it just
Yeah,
extends
It's a
your
low
payment out.
interest,
Low interest.
40-year loan.
Okay,
So,
but again, for that purpose, we still need the
Mhm.
numbers, so.
yeah,
We're
And
gonna
we'll
try all
see.
avenues, David.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do too, as part of our fee, we'll probably bring in I'll have a third-party estimator also just do an initial
mhm,
comparison, you know, as we continue along at like a design development level
mhm.
to do another estimate. If we don't have a
That's
downs, because I
down,
don't
yeah.
have a, you know, we don't have that
Yep,
team with us to do that.
agree. No, I think that probably
I mean,
makes
we could do
sense.
that as a separate, you know, breakout number unless.
Okay. Yeah, because we even did that on this project. Remember? We brought it, we got the number from Downs, and then we brought in, what was Al's wife's company?
Oh, yeah, Newfield, right?
No, it
No,
wasn't.
oh,
Newfield.
oh, yeah.
She was an estimator.
Oh, right, yeah, that is right.
Remember,
Yeah,
we had her
yes.
give us a second number to verify our 15
Yeah.
million.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. So I don't think it hurts, right? Especially when we're going to bonding and we
Was
want to
that
make
Kevin
sure.
Leach? Was that Leach?
Mm-mm.
No?
No. It'll come back to me, but
Yeah.
I do think, especially not having a Downs or an ONG on board to help us with it, I think we should
Okay.
have that backing. Hello?
I have a really easy question. Does
course.
anyone have a key to the Park and Rec office? We got locked out.
Oh, jeez.
I do
Go
not
see
have it
Linda
on me,
in the
but
first
Linda,
selectman's
yeah.
Is
office.
she there?
She should be.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
No, I can
know.
look for my keys.
I'm sure Linda's there.
I know, it's still only 6 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think what we need is your number
Yeah.
to get us through CD and through bidding,
Yep.
right? So that we can, that's what we need to get to the Board of Selectmen
Okay.
at this point and Board of Finance to make sure it's funded. Honestly, we need it, with the pace that we're on, we need it, Irene, in this year's, but we can't wait for 2025, 26 budget, right? It's gotta be funded from somewhere this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be
So you're
very
saying
hard.
after the 21st, you should be able to get us that number, correct?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, for our meeting on the 27th, we'll have that.
Definitely needs to be now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gibbons Excavating?
Gibbons, thank you. Yes.
Jeez, I'm trying to remember.
I wouldn't have remembered that without researching. So,
Yeah, now I remember.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
okay. Anything else project related?
She's now with OG, I think.
Oh, is she?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right, so 2 bills to approve tonight. The first one dated 12/1/2024 for $500. It's invoice number 24-1467. It's $500 from the, went towards design development. Motion,
I'm
Kevin,
motion to accept.
second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And then the next one is dated 1/1/25, 25-063. Again, it's in the design development phase. It's $1,000 being billed. So the contract amount in that was $43,000. This brings us to total build of $2,500. So it's only 5% of the total number billed for design development based on what we had here. So any other discussion?
No, I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
So moved.
All right. Any other, all those in favor? All right. Okay. Yeah, so far, we're back to that I know this says 206, 203.
But that had all those other
It had everything,
things
we're at
that-
112, the number was right around 112,000.
Yes.
So far, we've billed out 58,000 of that 112. So there's still an amount of money that's sitting there, 50+ thousand. And then based on the numbers you guys come back to us on what it'll cost, we can bring those two together.
Yeah, we'll probably just propose encumbered what that was and then take it from reallocate and just have a brand new design development line item.
Yep.
And then, take it from there. Design development, construction documents, that will be one fee, and then bidding and CA could be a separate fee. So I'll try to arrange that so you can see exactly that. We'll probably start with a new billing schedule moving forward, so we don't need to necessarily go back to confuse things with those numbers.
Agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think while we're going through our approval process, we don't want to slow down our work either, so if we can build some of it into this, we should figure out what the cutoff point is. So if there's 58,000 left in here, let's call it, or 50.
Sure.
We say we're gonna spend another 10 grand out of this, so we continue while we go to the Board of Selectmen, Board of
Oh, yeah,
Finance
we
to
definitely
reallocate.
could do that.
Yeah, so we say maybe there's 30 grand out of this we can put towards the new versus all 50 of it, so we don't stop.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
Okay,
Thought.
All right.
anything else?
Not for me.
All right, so we'll regroup on the 27th at 5:30.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
Great.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil, we'll talk to you later.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
I knew.
Shut off the recorder.
These are not.
No.